From JBS Studios in Greater New York, this is the JBS News Update with Teisha Bader.
I'm Teisha Bader with the JBS News Update for Thursday, December the 7th, 2023. The IDF named 5 soldiers killed during heavy fighting against terror group Hamas in Gaza yesterday and today. They are 24-year-old Sergeant First Class in Reserve Maor Gershoni, 22-year-old Staff Sergeant Amit Bonzel, both killed yesterday. 22-year-old Staff Sergeant Alemnu Emmanuel Feleke was wounded on Tuesday during fighting in southern Gaza and died from his injuries yesterday. 34-year-old Sergeant Major in Reserve Yonatan Razel and 25-year-old Master Sergeant in Reserve Gal Meir Eisenkot were killed in Gaza today. Gal Eisenkot is the son of former IDF Chief of Staff Gadi Eisenkot. Israeli troops continue their mission to root out terror group Hamas and its infrastructure in Gaza. International spokesperson Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari said over the last few days, IDF troops have found and destroyed terror tunnel shafts, including one inside a school, eliminated dozens of terrorists, and located a large amount of ammunition and weapons. Among those terrorists killed 2 senior members of Hamas's intelligence unit, one of whom was responsible, the IDF said, for all Hamas observations and took part in planning the brutal massacre of October the 7th. The other was a senior operative in the terror group's observation array. Hagari also reiterated how Hamas uses its civilians as human shields, even, he said, in humanitarian zones. Hagari said that yesterday Hamas terrorists launched 12 rockets at Beersheba in southern Israel, launching those rockets near tents of evacuated Gazan civilians in southern Gaza and from next to UN facilities. Also yesterday, Hagari said Hamas launched a rocket from inside a humanitarian zone. It misfired, putting many Gazan civilians at risk. An anti-tank missile fired from Lebanon injured an Israeli civilian today near the Moshav of Matat. The IDF responded to the attack. Israeli media reported that the civilian, said to be 60 years old, died from his injuries. U.S. National Security Advisor to the Vice President, Dr. Phil Gordon, met in Israel yesterday with families of Israeli hostages held by terror group Hamas in Gaza. The White House said Dr. Gordon heard about the agonizing ordeal of the hostages and their families and expressed the steadfast support of President Biden, Vice President Harris, and the entire Biden-Harris administration, saying it will relentlessly pursue every effort to secure the release of all hostages, saying their well-being remains front and center in our diplomatic conversations, and that Gordon emphasized our continued commitment to work with Israel, Qatar, and Egypt to reach a new deal to secure the release of hostages. A follow-up for you now to a story we told you about yesterday about the presidents of Harvard, MIT, and the University of Pennsylvania called to testify Tuesday at a congressional hearing about anti-Semitism on campus, which they all agreed was a serious issue and condemned hateful speech. But when asked by New York Republican Representative Elise Stefanik if calling for the genocide of Jews is against their school's code of conduct for bullying and harassment, all 3 presidents said it could be, depending on the context, basically if it crosses into conduct. Well, after some major backlash, 2 of the presidents made clarifying statements yesterday. Harvard President Claudine Gay saying there are some who have confused a right to free expression with the idea that Harvard will condone calls for violence against Jewish students. Let me be clear. Calls for violence or genocide against the Jewish community or any religious or ethnic group are vile. They have no place at Harvard, and those who threaten our Jewish students will be held to account. UPenn President Liz McGill said in a video message that when she was asked the question by Stefanik, she was focused on the school's policies aligned with the U.S. Constitution, which say that speech alone is not punishable.
I was not focused on, but I should have been, the irrefutable fact that a call for genocide of Jewish people is a call for some of the most terrible violence human beings can perpetrate. It's evil, plain and simple.
McGill said the university would initiate a serious and careful look at our policies, she said, which need to be clarified and evaluated. While Jews around the world are marking the beginning of Chanukah, the Festival of Lights, tonight, lighting the first candle of the menorah, or the Chanukiah, and placing it in their windows. Well, a grassroots initiative called Project Menorah is encouraging non-Jewish people to place a menorah, along with their other holiday decorations, in their windows to show solidarity and support for the Jewish community amid the sharp rise in anti-Semitism since the October 7th massacre. And as we do here on JBS every year, you can join us for our Chanukah candle lighting for the 8 nights of Chanukah at 5:30 p.m. Eastern, replayed at 11:30 p.m. Eastern. Taking a look now at our programming for tonight on JBS for Thursday, December the 7th at 7 o'clock, a look at the beloved Jewish Knish. At 7:30, Yonatan Razel is in concert. At 9, Rabbi Aryeh Katzin is on Lchayim. At 10, it's Srugim. And at 10:30, Rabbi Ammiel Hirsch talks about Chanukah. And coming up next, I speak with the CEO of the National Council of Jewish Women, Sheila Katz, about the special session held this past Monday at the UN on Hamas's sexual violence during the October 7th massacre. And that's the JBS News Update for Thursday, December the 7th, 2023. I'm Teisha Bader, wishing you a safe and happy Chanukah. Am Yisrael Chai.